Welcome to Tea Time with Shaylee and Amber. I'm Shaylee Evans, and I'm a life coach for pets and their people. I'm a truth seeker, and it's my passion to empower others and to give animals a voice along the way.
I'm Amber Leidick, and I've been a performance horse trainer focused on behavioral issues for over 20 years. My current passion is creating impactful in-person and online events and collaborating with professionals to be on the leading edge of positive change in the horse industry.
We are two friends invested in theta healing, belief system work, animal communication, and any resources that benefit human-animal partnerships. So turn up the volume and let's dive into the Great Awakening, brought to you by our horses. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. We are in episode 2 of our limited series, Straight from the Horse's Mouth. I don't know if that's what it's called, but we're talking to horses. And I was just telling Amber that these are so fun because she doesn't even know what's going on. Like, we don't talk about them before. She doesn't even know who we're talking to. It could be her horse for all she knows. And it's just so fun. But there's a lot of messages that are coming through today, and let's just get to it. So I will say, like, the collective energy, there's a lot of energy in the collective right now around transmutation, transformation, releasing attachments. There's a lot of animals that are making their transition. I know, I was texting Amber because she's had an experience with a fire, and we're going to have to talk about that. Then I pulled this like Phoenix and fire transformation card for this episode. And there's just a lot of there's a lot of transition right now. There's a lot of releasing attachment. There are animals who are making their transition to the non-physical. There are a lot of animals on their way to transitioning and helping their people with that transition and releasing what they think is best. And a lot of energy around just trusting your path and trusting that life is unfolding the way it should and not forcing or clinging to expectations or outcomes, which is like so big for all of us. And I actually just had like my own little transformational thing that I'm not going to get into because that'll be a major squirrel. But I want to read you guys the oracle card from it because it's so relevant to everything that's going to come up. And so I pulled the oracle card for like the collective today, and it was a phoenix, and the word is transmutation, which I was like, hilarious universe. Of course it is. And the message is this. Your life is changing, perhaps in ways that you didn't expect, but it's wildly wonderful. Transmutation is the act of changing from one state of being or one element into another. The phoenix is legendary for his transmutation in the fire. In the flames, he's reborn, leaving behind his old and tired self to become a passionate, wild, and free bird. Something that you might have thought would never change is changing into something amazing. It's not an ending, rather, it's a bright, shiny new beginning. Situations that seemed lackluster are transmuting into fabulous opportunities. Release expectations and limited thinking, for things are not as they seem. A big change is at hand in your life. What feels like an ending is really a beginning. Rising out of the flames and ashes, you're entering a new cycle. Even if life seems murky in areas, this is only the clearing before the rebirth. Hang in there because the best is yet to come.
Good one.
And isn't that a message for you and me and everything? That is the Sacred Forest Oracle by Denise Lynn, if anybody is curious about that. But yeah, so felt like that was relevant to this episode. And do you have anything that you want to add before we talk about this horse?
No, I don't think so. I think that it's so interesting that it goes so much along with, I've been talking about the void a lot. I've been posting about the void. And that is sort of like the fire. When you're in the middle of a fire, it's like chaos. There's all these decisions to make. There's all these like different paths you could go, but like all of it seems completely out of control. Oh, yeah. Just talk to the horse because I'll start spilling into the actual fire, and we don't want to do that right now. So, yeah.
We're definitely going to talk about that after. But okay, we're going to do the messages for the horse, and then we're going to return to like the elements because you guys, the elements are teaching everyone right now. So, okay. The horse is a little filly, and it's really hard not to say her name on the podcast, but
oh my gosh, I hope I just guessed it just by you saying that.
Oh my God.
I hope
you
that I'm
did
right.
too. You're gonna have to tell me after.
Okay.
Because her name is so important to her, and it's so relevant to like who she is and her journey, and it's like, oh, she's so aptly named. But okay, so her messages are She came into the world fairly recently and she was met with instant physical adversity. And she has really big lessons for her person or her people. Like there's a community around her, a community who loves her, around fear of the unknown and trusting the body's ability to heal, lessons around attachment and lessons around community. And this little filly is so full of life and chatty and like she's just like chatty energetically and I see her like being chatty in person and her horse mom feels like a new mom or like a mom that's like, all right, I made this like fabulous but like wild being, like what do I do with this thing, like what is anyone even gonna do for her, like everyone it, like she just has like such a big energy and like the energy and like specialness of this little girl is like even a lot for her own mom. And it feels like there's a lot of energy and opinions around her right now, and everyone is concerned about her well being. But when I look at her energy and her soul, like she's nothing but pure positive energy, and she's happy and healthy and curious and embodied. And despite her physical challenges, she hasn't missed a single meal or a single opportunity to connect with everyone. And it's really cool because she carries this message of like showing. It's funny because I wrote this stuff down and like I kept writing her person and then like in parentheses her people because it just feels like she's got like multiple people who are like fully involved and like she's got a soul contract with more than just a single person. So she came to show her people that there's always going to be unforeseen circumstances and leaving the known can be really scary, but she will always be supported by the community around her and by her guides and spirit. And she is really encouraging her person and her people to trust in the body's ability to heal and to not put any unnecessary energy towards the unwanted. And I just felt like this was so perfectly timed because I just made a post about believing bigger than the prognosis and like expecting the best possible scenario and stuff. And I was like, wow, no wonder why this filly jumped out at me. Um, so yeah, there's also lessons in attachment around her and letting go of what could be and should be and just process and live in each moment, appreciating her existence and not forgetting all of the change in the unknowns and experiences that have already conspired to bring her here. She really put a lot of energy into saying like it's a big deal to bring life into this world, and she's gently reminding her people to give a lot of like energy and thanks and care to her mother, like her horse mother, who deeply needs it more than she does. And she just kept saying, I have everything I need, but I need my people to remember that like the health and well-being of my mom plays a massive role in how my life is going to go. And her horse mom has spent a lot of time kind of quietly navigating this new space in life on her own, and she definitely needs support. And I just thought it was so beautiful that she talked about that because she puts so much emphasis in community, and she's like, here I am, like this bright new life with not a lot of momentum behind me and all this stuff. And like, how come no one's like paying more attention to my mom? Like, what's going on over here? Like, my mom really needs help. She's going through all this change and like I'm getting all the attention. And it feels like her horse mom has a lot of questioning about like what's next for her, a lot of fear of the unknown that she's sharing with her human. And this little baby is like really encouraging her person to have grace and understanding for the big life changes that come with bringing life into this world and just giving her a little extra care. And some of her last messages were just around like life is about moving from one unknown to the next and leaving the attachment of the familiar so that we can grow and we can create a more harmonious experience in life if we focus on the best case scenario and we become more deliberate with our thoughts and our energy. And there's an invitation to appreciate all of the components that have brought you to where you are today, the good, the unfavorable, knowing that all of them are important and all of them were deliberately brought into your life by you. And to take more naps. That was like her last piece. Like she was like, everyone needs to take more naps. Like everyone just needs to like chill a little bit more. And then what I thought was kind of fun is we have a little twofer in this episode, because the person who posted this little filly also has a super strong like bay gelding energy around her. So he kind of chimed in and felt like he had something to add to the conversation because um his person is deeply involved in healing the physical bodies of horses and helping people find their wellness, like the wellness of the horses. And he came forward and told me that he's like an energy weaver and that he connects people and places and things, not for just his person, but for everyone who comes into contact with him. And he carries a deeper message of releasing methods, actually, like an attachment to methods and tapping into a deeper innate wisdom that connects and weaves us all. And he had this message that methods can bring security and they can produce results, but there's something really powerful about the flow of energy and releasing the attachment of the familiar and stepping into and trusting the innate wisdom that we're all born with. And that innate life force energy, it doesn't have a method or a name or a look, and it's a feel, and it doesn't come from the mind, it comes from the body. So that was his little like add on to this whole situation. And it's a perfect segue into talking about what's going on in our lives because we had the fire. And then I was just talking about releasing the attachment to like what the physical body needs to. There's so many releasing. So do you, well, why don't you just say whatever you feel inspired to say?
Well, the fire was interesting. We recently had a big fire next to my boyfriend's property and actually hit the property line, but the process of the process of surrendering to something that is completely out of your hands, I mean, um, and to the unknown and becoming aligned with whatever happens is okay rather than becoming too attached to like I think sometimes what people want to do is they want the best case scenario, which is great, but there's something more epic about leaving the margin for magic where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be for the highest and best. Whether or not it's what I think I want to happen, because sometimes that's not necessarily what you need to happen. And so there was this interesting process of like witnessing, and Shaylee and I both were like, we should talk to the fire. And I connected with her and she was like, I am busy. Like, I was like, okay. Like, do you think you could just like, and she was like, "Ah, I am busy. Okay, just trust. I am busy. And I was like, all right, never mind. I'm not talking to fire anymore. Fire knows what she wants. She knows what
Yeah.
she's doing, and no one's gonna fucking stop her. Um, so that piece was interesting where yeah, and then also talking a lot about the fire as far as life and what that signifies even within alchemy, because that's also the other thing that I'm like continuing to focus on is those steps of transformation within alchemy. And the first piece is the fire, where it's like you are burning away all of the things, in those moments, whether it's like divorce or like a friendship is falling apart or you lose your job or there's some type of natural disaster. It's like those are the moments where you feel like everything is falling apart, but those are the moments that you need to burn away the old parts of you. And if you look at those as opportunities to do that, then you get less caught up in the like victimness and the like tragedy of things where it's like, yeah, this is really hard, but also what is true for me right now in these really hard moments and how can I feel into how it feels in my actual body? Because I think also that kind of stuff it's like inviting you back into your body, because I feel like we like to disassociate from the discomfort and the pain in your heart for grief or the fear that you have of not knowing. And the beautiful part about going, I know that whatever's happening around me right now is poking at that because it exists within me already. And if I can just feel into it, I can get the messages from it and I can let it move through. Um, so becoming more embodied in those moments is a really interesting experience as well. So the fire and the phoenix and all the things like very, very relevant.
Mm-hmm. And I think fire is like such a powerful element because it forces change. Like it's like I'm coming whether you like it or not. And there's like not, if you think about like all the other elements, like air, like yes, there's certain things that it can force, like tornadoes and stuff. Water, people are like, I'll just get in a fucking boat. Like with air, it's like I'll drive away. Fire, it's like no one's gonna stand inside of her and live to tell the tale. Like
Yeah.
she's
And you know what was
strong.
so interesting? It was like watching the airplanes drop the retardant and then watching the helicopters very skillfully drop water on. There's a video that I posted. there's one helicopter that just literally like drops like the exact line and puts the whole thing out. I was like, oh, excuse me, do you need this video of what you do? Because you are really fucking good.
I know. I was hoping they could. I was like, hopefully someone, like one of the rescue people, finds your video because
I
it's a
know
cool
I
video.
there's still a lot of the fire department here on the property, so it would be something to like pass on. Like, did you this helicopter driver because I mean the airplane people too, yes, obviously, but that helicopter dropped that water like the most accurate thing I've ever watched in my entire life. It was so impressive. Um, but what had happened is the fire had gotten into a really deep like gully, and so the water and the retardant couldn't get to it, and it was just going and going and going, and it wasn't going a lot, but it was going enough to where no one could leave. And so one of the guys was like, well, don't be alarmed because at about 3 in the morning when the wind dies down, we're gonna start the fire again. And we we're like, what the fuck? But like the only way to do it was to go all in. Like we just need to like light it on fire, or we have all these little patches that we can't see. We just need to burn everything. And I was like, that is such a fascinating thing to think about, where it was like, this is gonna continue on unless you just fucking go for it. And I was like, you're going to light more fire to back burn it, to get rid of all of it at once, And so I was like, how interesting to think of that as like a concept of like, instead of pushing things away and trying to avoid things, it's like, fuck it. Like, light it on fire and get this over with. And I was like, I know. And then it was like done by the next morning. There's, like I said, there's still people here watching, but I don't know, it was like kind of crazy. And of course, my brain has to go down all kinds of rabbit holes. It can't just be about a fire. It has to be about the meaning of what they're doing and why and how it's so significant. And so, yeah, pretty crazy.
Would life even be fun if your brain didn't go there though?
No.
Like, what do
How
people
would
do that like what do people do when they're like, well, actually, my husband is like that where he'll be like, I'll be like, oh no, because I was sick last week and then I developed like a little rash on my arm and I was like, what does it mean? Like I was like, now it's transforming in a different way. And like then I was like, Fern just had something on her and he was like, couldn't it just be a rash? And I was like, never. It's never just
Never.
like, yeah, it's like this little patch on my arm. And I was like, no, this is like significant. But you know what's so funny is I was talking about belief system. I was talking to my friend Michelle Mix yesterday, and we were actually talking about the element of water because she loves the element of water. It's like her thing. She's talking about how our bodies are water and how like water holds memory and the water that most of us drink is actually like dead. It's like living in like a tank and then it goes through pipes and like we get it and it doesn't have like any life in it and all of the things that are just in our water and she also talks about how like it holds the memory of like all of the treatments and stuff that were put into it to make it
Mm,
healthy and so like her thing is she really likes negative ion water. She has this machine that like turns it into a negative
I want that
ion and
machine.
it passes. I know, me too. And it's funny because I'm like, I need a sign of your sign. And if I'm meant to have that machine, the money is going to appear to me. And I've been like manifesting it, seeing myself with that machine. But like she's like, if you think about it, like what it does is it charges it, it brings it back to life. So it's living water and also like you're getting water with no memory. Like, so think about what
Mm.
that could do with your
You
body
could
and like
program it before you
how,
drink it.
yes, your
Yeah.
intent. That's exactly what she was talking about, like putting your
Oh.
intention into it and stuff. And Justin, so my husband and I were like talking about that, and I was like, I want to buy this like expensive water machine. And he was like, well, can't you just program like your thought into like our regular fridge water? And I was like, yes, but I'm in a space right now where I don't believe in anything. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I need something to believe in. Like, I was like, I don't believe in anything right now. It's so weird because I know how powerful a thought is, right? Like, I know that if I like put a belief into something, it can happen instantaneously. But what has been happening to me is that
Mm.
I will say, like, okay, this supplement is going to help my horse, right? And so if I leave it there and I stay general, I'm like, this supplement is going to help my horse's feet. Great, cool. But then what happens is throughout my time with myself, I will be like, oh, this supplement could help my horse, but only if I believed in it. And I don't know
Oh.
if I believe in it. And I've like taken myself down this path. And I was talking to Michelle yesterday and I was like, Michelle, I don't believe in anything. Like, I don't think I could get your water machine because I think I would get it and I would be like, yeah, it's all good and fine. She says it's living and everything, but like, I know that my belief system could just sabotage it right now. And now that I know that, I don't think that I could ever I don't know if this water is gonna like help me or whatever. And it's so weird because then I was like, why do you think that is? And so just going back to fire, this has a point, you guys, I swear. She was like, well, what are you doing to your beliefs right now? You're suppressing it. And when you talk about suppressing suppressing different parts of the fire versus going all in and then creating like a mass suppression versus just like little parts and pieces. She was basically telling me yesterday, like, this is what you're doing with your energy and your magic and your medicine that you're like bringing forward. You're suppressing all these different little parts of yourself and then allowing, like, it's almost like if you think about yourself as a body of water and like your throat and your voice is like that avenue and you've got all these little suppressions and then you like let a little bit out and you're like, oh, this is amazing, but it's like a conditional experience because you're not letting it like fully flow. And I was like, wow, that's so crazy. So she's like, yeah, you got to go. Like, it's so funny that you're like, you have to go all in because that's what she said to me yesterday. She's like, you got to go all in. You're either really stuck there and you're learning the experiences she's like, sometimes you just get stuck and you're just in that void of like, I don't believe in anything. And then the dam is going to break. Or you say, fuck it, I'm going to buy this machine and I'm going to test it. And I'm going to think of like best case scenario. And I'm going to say like, prove it to me, machine. I believe. And then when you get into that space, and of course, I loved that part because I'm like all Taurus and I'm like, prove it, like
Prove
so
it.
skeptical. And yeah, I love that when it's like when you think about it in that way where you become empowered and you're like, "Oh, I don't believe that so much, so I'm going to say this is going to help me, show it to me." And then that puts like such a strong intention into like this is going to heal my body from like my cough or whatever, prove it. And then you're like holding such a high expectation. You think you're doing it in stubbornness, but you're really tricking yourself and because you're holding such a high expectation that like you're waiting for the end result. So
Mhm.
I don't know. It's an interesting time right now, man.
Yeah. It and then well when you think about like the void and what I rambled on about in a live in my group that I revived my private group due to my inspired action, which I was like, oh, I need to set that up again. I was like, what? That I had archived it, but talking about when you're in the void, it's not the time to try to figure out how to get out of it. It's not the time to make decisions, even though you feel like these are all these urgent things that need to happen right now. That's actually not the time to do it because you're not going to be even making the correct decision for your highest and best or in any type of alignment. It's like the time to go, where can I just be? Like, where can I just be where nothing is being thought about and trying to figure out? And talked about how when you're in the void, sometimes it can kick you like heavily into your masculine where you are trying to problem solve. And what you really need to do is go back into your feminine and let that flow come back through. And then the creativity comes and then the inspired action comes. And then you're like, oh, that is the next step. Like it comes to you, like you are receiving it. Also ties into being in receiving mode being like intuitively, what am I supposed to do next? Instead of like, what are all the options that I can choose from? Where it's like, no, what is the next best thing that needs to happen? um Even if it's just like a step towards me being out of this, not the full, the full answer to all the things, like what is just like the next tiny breadcrumb that I can follow. So yeah, that.
Yeah, definitely. It's very easy to get into like the doing mode and feeling because it's like that fear of the unknown again, right? Because it's like giving ourselves an illusion of control if we're in that masculine, we're like, I am in control of everything. And I think too, just to like tie this conversation like back to the beginning is wait, why did I just lose my train of thought? We might have to edit this. All right, hold on. What was I gonna
Squirrel
say?
just rolled that nut right out of there. Just kidding.
Coral just rolled it out. Yeah, because I was like, oh, this ties perfectly into something, something out there. Uh,
Rest.
all right. Well, I guess that's
Is it her taking more
no,
naps? Because that's
but
kind of feels
maybe.
like that's what the being is, right? It's like go rest and allow it to come to you. Who knows? Who knows? It's not
Yeah,
important.
maybe that's what it needs to be because it's obviously not what I was gonna say. So I guess that's the end of our conversation, guys. That's it. That's what we have for you.
Oh, I love it when the conversation goes from like full speed ahead to like full like and you're done.
And I literally just lost my entire brain right now. So that's fun. Well, we
Anyways,
hope you guys have a great weekend and thanks for listening. Let us know
also,
how.
also, also. So we're going to talk about the retreat that we have coming up in 20 days in Aptos, California. It is called Remember. And we are, speaking of elements, we are going to be connecting with all of the elements. We are going to be going to the Redwood Forest, where there is a little rivery creek that runs through. We're going to be hitting up the ocean. We're going to be having fire ceremonies. And of course, we are weaving in all of the horse medicine because so no, you don't need to bring a horse. You don't even have to be a horse person. If you or someone you know just wants to reconnect with themselves and also the elements, and you're in the void and you're like, oh, what do I need to do to get me out? This is what you do. So yeah, so it's July 25th to the 27th. All right.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want more info, you can click on the link below. Also, if you're listening to this and you are not a freaking member, you should become one because we do fun stuff in there. And I'll also put the link for that in the show notes. It's our little tea house, and we have once a month tea party. And also, your horse gets to be on our podcast, and we have book
Mm-hmm.
clubs and guests that you guys get to be a part of. And also, some of our online things are going to be starting back up in the next couple months. So you get discounts because we like our family. We like to treat them well. So
Mm-hmm.
join all the things. And yeah, I guess that's it.
See you guys later.
Bye.